So, I technically arrive at what is technically the last episode of my festive marathon. I do have one other kind of bonus episode that I will get to in time, but for the final official episode in the kind of festive marathon, 2017 Christmas special, Twice Upon a Time. And believe it or not, I actually think this was the kind of perfect episode to show just before Series 11 started. It's the kind of perfect setup for it. The plot of the episode, the Doctor Peter Capaldi's Doctor, has been injured and he is technically about to regenerate, but doesn't want to because he feels he has to stop at some point. The Doctor has to end eventually. And he ends up at the kind of, I think it's the South Pole. Yeah. He ends up there and he encounters the first Doctor, played once again here by David Bradley, who is also trying to resist regeneration, feeling that he has the kind of right to kind of live his life and die as he is. And yeah, both of them have certainly caused a massive problem, as they both feel that maybe it's time for them to die. But that obviously causes problems with time that results in them encountering a captain from World War One. Yeah. They also end up encountering a mysterious kind of organisation known as Testimony, in which they find that Testimony is kind of like people who record people's last thoughts before they die, and then basically use that to help humanity. To which they also encounter a kind of version of Testimony that takes the form of the Doctor's previous companion, Bill Potts, played by Paul Mackey, who helps them throughout the episode. Now, why do I think this is the perfect episode show right before Series 11? Well, this was Peter Capaldi's kind of regeneration episode, and we all knew that he was regenerating. We all knew that Jodie Whittaker was coming next. She was going to be the next incarnation of the Doctor. So, but then it was kind of a little bit nerve-wracking. We were all a little bit nervous because we all know that the Doctor, in terms of the official canon, this was going to be a huge change. I mean, Doctor Who changes all the time, but the Doctor had never officially been female. I mean, there had been kind of skits and sketches and like, but the Doctor, in terms of the canon from 1963 until now, the Doctor had never really had never once been a female. But then, I think this is the perfect episode to show that, because it's got the most recent Doctor, kind of Peter Capaldi, but also a version of the first Doctor. As if to say, this, we're moving forward to the future, but the present and the past are both there to see it and both give their blessing, which I feel is kind of a nice touch. I also liked the kind of historical elements of the episode in that they're not kind of dragged into the foreground. They're not an important part, but the captain that they end up kind of getting, played by Mark Gatiss, or it might be Gattis, sorry if I mispronounce it, but they eventually know they have to return him to the time and point of his death. However, the Doctor manages to alter things a little, just by a few hours, which causes him to end up being in the crater that he was due to die in I don't know how to pronounce it, my apologies. I don't know if it's Ypres or Ypres or Ypres, but he ends up there at the beginning, at Christmas 1914, during the Christmas truce. Now, I've had people claim that, oh, that wasn't real, that's just a legend, but apparently this was something that is thought to have actually happened. That during World War One, during Christmas 1914, that eventually Silent Night was being sung by both sides during the war, and that eventually soldiers from both sides just stopped fighting for a day and kind of went to meet each other, exchanged gifts, and had a game of football. And honestly, it's one of the most beautiful moments that you ever really think of. Just that two sides constantly at war for years just decide to come together and just celebrate Christmas, just have one day of peace. And I do feel it's kind of rather beautiful, both to think about and also to kind of watch in this episode. And even seeing David Bradley's first Doctor kind of grapple throughout the episode with the fact that he may become the Doctor of War, it's like, what is this? Who are you? And then towards the end where he just goes, so that's what it means to be a Doctor of War. Kind of help out people who are trapped in kind of never-ending battles. And yeah, I do feel it's a rather nice touch. I don't necessarily think it's the strongest of all the Christmas episodes, but I definitely feel it's a very beautiful one. And yeah, one that was especially good for doing just before Jodie came on board. I mean, with Peter Capaldi's final speech, kind of going to his words of warning to Jodie of things like, never be cruel, never be cowardly, yeah, that's okay, and never ever eat pears. I mean, it's funny, but it's also kind of heartbreaking. Just these being his final words, and then just saying, I let you go. To say, I didn't really want to continue, but I know I have to. I might as well. And it is rather beautiful. So all in all, I think it's a good Christmas episode, and one that was definitely good to watch just before kind of Jodie Whittaker came on stage. Yeah, I mean, just as she said at the end of the episode, oh, brilliant. Yeah, this episode was brilliant to watch. So that totally brings me to the end of my Christmas marathon, but I do have one bonus episode that I'm going to try and slip in. I'll see you on the other side. Until then, see ya.